Hello friends, and welcome to another installment of Golondrinas live sessions. I'm your host, Laura Gonzalez, Director of Education here at El Rancho de las Golondrinas, Santa Fe's premier living history museum. We're located in the beautiful and historic La Cienega Valley. Joining us today is special guest, New Mexican award-winning jeweler, Randy Montoya. Randy Montoya is a silver and goldsmith from Santa Fe, whose ancestry goes back many generations to 1890. At age 15, Randy discovered his affinity for making jewelry when he was a student at Santa Fe High School. Shortly after graduation, Randy was offered a job with a local jewelry designer, thus catapulting his passion for jewelry and design. It quickly became evident that he had a true talent and natural ability for jewelry making. He continued his work for the next 18 years, during which he perfected his ability to work with silver, gold, and intricate stone inlays. Randy now has a collection of traditional and contemporary pieces that have been featured in multiple artist markets throughout New Mexico. Following their own passions for silver and goldsmithing, Randy's two sons now work alongside him as apprentices. Today he's going to share with us a little bit about what inspires his jewelry making, the traditional techniques he uses, and most importantly, where you can find some of his unique and beautiful pieces to take home for yourselves. If you have any questions for Randy, please post them in the comments and we'll address them. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy. Hello, Randy, and welcome.
Thank you. Oh. I'm Randy Montoya. I've been doing this silversmithing for 30 years now. It was just something I found out I had inside me, a talent, I guess you could say. I started out before, like I said, 30 years ago, before 3D printing. What I loved achieving was making something nobody else could. Back then there wasn't 3D printers. I was the 3D printer. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a bracelet, a stamped bracelet, out of just a regular piece of silver. And this is just a plain piece of silver. And this is going to be transformed into this. Some of the techniques that I'm going to be using is just to have an knack for it. It's you got to have steady hands. The hammer that I use this is my favorite hammer that I stamp everything with. It has a nice feel to it. To me, it's nice and heavy. This anvil that I stamp on, I've had this for 30 years. The stump that I have is 30 years as well. I've had this cut just for myself. It's the right height, everything, so that way I could rest my hand, see what I'm doing. The stump actually came from the Santa Fe River, one of the cottonwoods. 30 years ago they were cutting them down, and I was able to get a couple of the stumps, and there I was able to cut them exactly the height that I needed them to be for it to be comfortable. When making jewelry, you always got to be comfortable in everything that you're doing. If it's polishing, stamping, setting stone. Yeah. So what I'm gonna attempt to do is start to stamp one of these, this piece of bracelet, this silver. And what I do is, it's all about your setting it all up, all your layout. And for me, that's what makes everything a lot easier. And basically, all I do it with, I measure everything from the stamp, where I'm going to be laying it out. I use lines from it's just a Sharpie that goes on there. And what I do with my design, with the stamp, is I'll try to make a design with the stamp, if that makes any sense. So if you look at this bracelet here, which I'm going to be making, is you have the stamp on the side, but if you look in the middle, you're going to see a zigzag from the stamp. So here we go. I'm going to put my optovisors on now, and start going. And the stamps that I also use, you can see that, the design. I also make my own stamps from steel. All handmade pieces. Like this one here is actually it was a drill bit, a bigger drill bit, and I just made kind of a chisel out of it. So just out of everything, make do with what I have. When starting to stamp, again, gotta be steady. I use my optivisor so that way I can make sure I can see everything that I'm doing. You lay it on there, gotta hold it tight, and then you have your piece, your stamp, and then when you're ready to go, give it a good whack. You always want to try and get it in the first hit. You don't want to come back. You don't want to go too deep, because then it distorts the metal too much and doesn't make a clean piece. So that was our first stamp right there. And I'm going to be going all the way across and then all the way back, so that way I could get this design. You just look as I'm going, I'll keep showing you. They're nice and straight. And it looks simple, looks easy, but when you're sitting down to try it, doing it for the first time, you find out it's not as easy as it looks. Again, been doing this for 30 years, so it's easier for myself. And usually when I do my stamping, I make sure no one's around me to come bump me. And I get into my own space. Listen to music while I'm doing it. So right there was 16 stamps, nice and straight. And the one thing that you definitely want to do when you're stamping is you want to make them all the same depth. When you have a design like this, what I'm going to be doing later is oxidizing, so that way black stays inside those pieces when I'm polishing it. So now to go back the other side. And then when you're stamping, if you see, kind of gives it a little bit of a bow. Nothing to worry about, because now when you do the other side, it's going to straighten everything back out. So now I'm going to go back in the opposite direction. start getting to warp a little bit. You gotta make sure it's nice and flat. There we go. Have both sides nicely stamped across from each other the way I want them. And I have that zigzag design going straight down the middle. Now my next, what I do is I get this is basically a nylon mallet, rubber mallet, and I'm just going to basically tap the back part of it to bring out the stamp, so it's not embedded so deep. Okay, so now with this part, I have another stamp that I made, and it's basically a chasing technique. And what I do is I have the piece of, I have my tool that I made, my stamp, and I basically chase the piece, and I switch it to a different hammer. This is the perfect hammer that I like to use to do this, so that way the depth is the same going all the way across. And it's basically a technique like this when I go all the way down. When doing this, you got to make sure to keep it nice and straight. You don't want a curved or a sideways hit. So everything has to be the same depth, and straight across from each other. And with that, I will go all the way down and all the way back up to make this edge that I like. And when I make a piece, I do tend to make it just a little bit bigger, so that way I could always trim it down to the size that I want it. Because there is a lot of distortion, as you can see at the edge. But again, that's all going to be nicely cleaned up. So what I'm going to attempt to do now is I also have my stamps that I carry. I have an M stamp. It's just an M that I actually made out of a piece of steel. And stamp it with sterling as well. So now that I have the design up in the front, this is going to be the inside of the bracelet, and if you could see the back part where the stamps are. So what you got to do now is you got to make sure not to mess up your stamps from the back part. So basically, it left an area where you could hit I could put sterling. I'll put my trademark, like I do on all my pieces. I'm going to do M for Montoya. And like I said, it's a specific M that I made. It's not an M that you could just buy anywhere. It's special M. And there. I always stamp my stuff with my trademark. And of course, sterling silver. And so what we're going to attempt now is we're going to dome this piece. And the way I do that is with, this is a piece of lead, and I have a little bit of a indentation there, so that way I could start doming the piece. So that way I don't distort the stamp. I'll use my rubber mallet, and I'm going to use this dome part so that way I could get a nice curve going. And what's the important part right now is I'm just trying to get the middle part, the height in the middle of the part that gets hard about trying to dome a bracelet or anything, metal, with every hit that you hit on this piece, it's actually hardening the silver. So it's going to make it harder to bend. So this is a basic shape that I have right now. But as you can see, I have a dome going. I want my high part in the middle, which I have. And now what I do is I come over here, these are mandrels that I have, and I have a round one and an oval one, okay? And of course this is how we want the bracelet to look at the end, is to have an oval shape. And with everything that I have, I put my own personal touches to it. Like on this part right here, I took the bevel, took the edge off of there, so that way I could put a dome onto this bracelet. Make sure that's nice and sturdy. And now using that edge that I created. Okay, so as you can see, I'm having the dome coming around. And the shape is getting a little better. As you can see now, we have the bracelet shape. And now to get the dome a little bit higher, I'll come to the side. Okay. So now with the stamping and getting a dome on this bracelet without any machine, doing it all completely by hand, just by using a mandrel and hammers. This is what it comes out to. After this, I don't have them here. It's a lapidary unit. It's a sanding machine. And what I'll do is I'll take off the sides. And what I want you guys to see is just how much work has actually gone into this piece, from the banging, hitting it on the metal from the inside and on the outside. You'll see just a bunch of marks from the hammers. And when it's all said and done, after working on it, this is what it comes out to be. And as you can see from the inside, I like to take the extra time to clean everything from the inside and from the inside out. I'll take out all the little dings from the hammers, and you'll have a nice clean surface. And I think that's what a lot of my customers like, is I take the extra time to make everything nice and clean. And I mean, you could tell that it's handmade, but you can't, because you don't see the marks from the hammers. For some people like to do that. Not me. I like to take everything off and make it as clean as possible. And when you have one of my pieces, you're getting as clean as I could possibly get them. Okay, so now that this is done being domed, the next part is to take out all the dings from the hammer by sanding it, cleaning the inside with it's called a Scotch-Brite wheel and or rubber wheels, and it's just a fine wheel that cleans everything up really nice to take everything off. I like to take the extra time to make sure everything's nice and clean. That's what I'm known for, is my nice, clean work. But the polishing, my polishing is also done by hand, by buffing them by hand with the machine. None of my pieces you'll find that they're tumbled, having a machine do it for you. I just find it to have a nice luster. You could just, I could personally see and be proud of the finish when it's all done. And this is what the final piece looks like when it's done. Again, from the inside out, nicely polished. And not only do I make bracelets, I make necklaces, belt buckles, earrings, Zia pendants, a variety of different jewelry from silver and gold. And the places you can find me, I'm very proud to be in the Spanish market here in Santa Fe. To be in the Spanish market, you have to make 3 pieces that are juried. And what you gotta hope is there's an opening for a jeweler that year that you're trying to get into the Spanish market. There's hundreds of people trying to get into the Spanish market, and maybe 3 people a year are actually allowed into the Spanish market. And once you're in, you're grandfathered in, and you're able to stay there for as long as you like, as long as you're making quality pieces. Whatever you're making. Spanish market, and also on my webpage, which is rmontoyajewelry.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is r.montoya.jewelry. And you could also email me anytime at rmontoyajewelry@gmail.com. The thing that inspires me about making jewelry is forming something with your hands and just trying to make something different than anyone else. It's a huge compliment when somebody buys your piece that you made with your own hands, and they're just so happy and proud to have your piece. Probably one of the best things that I've witnessed while doing this for 30 years is having my youngest son. I was teaching him how to make certain pieces, how to make pieces, and we were at a show, and he had made a bracelet, and I let him do all the talking. I wanted him to learn, and while he was talking to this lady about the piece that he made, the bracelet that he made, and her saying, "I'll take it," the look on his face of, first he was nervous, and then it just went from being proud, accomplished, was probably one of the best things I've witnessed making jewelry, was just seeing that face of accomplishment from him. And from there on out, this is what he does for a living.
Well, thank you so much, Randy, for sharing your art with us today. This obviously didn't take you much time at all, and I know that's because you were kind of speeding up the process for our purposes here today. How long normally would a bracelet like this take you in your shop?
Something like this, 4 hours it would take me to make from start to
Wow.
finish. Yes.
That's pretty impressive, folks. He did pretty much as good as the final piece here in about 20 minutes. So that just goes to show what a talented artist Randy is. And thank you all so much, friends, for joining us here today for another segment of Golondrinas live session featuring special guest and friend of Las Golondrinas, Randy Montoya, a long-time award-winning New Mexico jeweler and artist. Again, we're so honored to have you here today. We were privileged enough to have Randy join us last season for our Harvest Festival. So if you came out, maybe you saw one of his live demonstrations. As he mentioned, you can always look for him at the yearly Spanish market right here in Santa Fe in July. We're hoping that he'll accept an invitation to come out again to Las Golondrinas and participate at one of our events. We're sure glad that he was here today. We're all about supporting local artists here at Las Golondrinas and for preserving New Mexico traditions, and we're so glad to know Randy Montoya and to know that he and his sons are continuing this long time tradition. Silversmithing is a really long time special tradition in New Mexico, and I'm glad that we were able to capture a little bit about that today for our purposes. As he mentioned, make sure to look for him on his Instagram, on his website, send him an email. You'll be able to follow along with him, shows that he's attending, and of course where you can find some of his unique pieces to take home for yourselves. All of that information will be included in this post. Remember, you can find more Golondrinas live sessions. Follow us on our Facebook at SF Golondrinas, as well as our Instagram, also at SF Golondrinas. And for all things 50th anniversary and everything going on this year in 2022, remember that your adventure starts at golondrinas.org. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.